sense of shared struggle.
We want to reconnect with one another.
I'm learning what it means to be Filipino within a society that is not all about being Filipino.
Every time I have an encounter with somebody or something that inspires me.
Take space, make space. We're a group of people that understand how privilege works, and we want to bring that understanding to this space and make sure we're making room for the most marginalized folks among us to take up space.
We are the first cross-racial people of color with wealth group that's focused on racial justice. I think what brings us together is this commitment to wanting to center racial justice in philanthropy and politics and really just shift the center of gravity so that we're pushing against the structural racism that has existed in democracy and in philanthropy. And we're all committed to that.
I think one of the real joyful experiences is being here today because everything has been virtual for the last couple of months, and so I think it's like almost a bit emotional to kind of be here together in person after 2.5 years or however long it's been. So it's really exciting.
I've always been deeply convicted about the mission of this organization and its importance, and I've always been a proud member of the organization. But I honestly think that as our current climate changed, and by climate I mean political climate, actual physical climate, as all of these situations that people of color find themselves in continue to get more challenged, I felt more compelled to take more action and be more deeply involved. And I feel like being on the board of Donors of Color Network allows me to do that.
In unsiloing the racial nature of the destruction of the kinds of systems that tend to keep us in place, you get all kinds of information that if you're doing this work siloed, never cross-pollinates. And I think the cross-pollination both in nature and in systems and in businesses and in racial groups will be beneficial.
Over 90% of our members have personally experienced racial, ethnic discrimination and bias, and because of that, there's a lot of solidarity in understanding what happens when you are up against the halls of power and people tell you that you're not going to be able to make it, or there's racism right at your front door and in your community, people saying that you can't actually make change.
I think that joy, power, and community is so essential to what we do because so much of what we do is sometimes depressing, and it's a long road that we need to have stamina for long term. And if we do not find joy, power, and community in it, then we aren't going to have the staying power that we need.
Holding organizations accountable to communities of color, that alone is powerful. But then when you add the fact that we're taking money and moving it towards organizations that are trying to support communities of color as they face the impacts of climate change, it's this added layer of impact. And it's incredibly exciting. I really don't think there's anyone that's doing what we're doing in this regard, and I'm really proud to be a part of that part in particular.
The racial justice protests against police brutality of the George Floyd murder really activated a lot of our donors. At the same time, we had the pandemic where it really highlighted and shined a light on health inequities, particularly in Black and Brown communities. And then finally, we had this election in 2020 where we were focused on fighting for our democracy and making sure that we were going to actually have votes counted and people showing up to the polls.
The conversations, the bonds, the friendships, the connections, it's so different when you're in person. Like, we're going to be here for a couple of days together, and I'm so excited to catch up with some people in a group, some people individually, some of those late nights. Those are where those friendships and bonds are really forged.
In organizations like DOCN, this ability to create and weave a new fabric, start a new paradigm, which means we can't just move the furniture around anymore. We have to build a new house. Thank you. You can clap. I like that. I'm an actor.